I don't know how much else I can say about that without spoiling, because I am kind of intense about that.
So you're almost done with 5.0, and
right.
then you would have
I hope
1,
so.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Well,
right.
Yeah, I do have different plans for when I get to those, because right now with this current method of recording I'm doing, I am keeping roughly in pace with my YouTube progress in terms of my actual in-game progress. So I'm not recording way ahead, like super far ahead, in order for me to accumulate a backlog to edit through later. That is what I should be doing, but what I am doing now is a little bit more masochistic. Being that I'm very how can I explain it? It's kind of like I'm trying to figure out what outside life is like by swimming to the middle of the ocean and living on an island, just to figure out what it's like being outside. So I kind of took it to the extreme a bit, in being that I've strongly secluded myself from a lot of things, like especially the Final Fantasy XIV community, for the sake of being anti-spoilers. So this whole time, while I'm taking my sweet freaking slow time trying to get through this MSQ and then editing this stuff during these quote-unquote breaks, I'm not really taking a break, I'm just sitting there trying to edit these videos for way longer than necessary. I'm just sitting there usually very secluded off. Like if I am in game, I'm off by some mining node or some tree. Like I've been heavily deforesting some lands for some time for the sake of guild making, I guess. But that's usually what most of my gameplay is like nowadays, just sitting that off half AFK, alt tabbed for a good portion of the day, and just editing on the side and trying to expedite that as much as I can. But I say that, but my perfectionist side of me keeps kicking in, and I keep taking way longer than I want to, essentially. So with that said, that means I don't really know a whole lot of the Final Fantasy XIV community in general. Like, you folks are like I think the only people I've ever interacted with in terms of the content creator side of things.
And he's come back,
so it has advantage.
Yeah,
we're wonderful. Don't meet anyone else. They're definitely not better than us.
No. Oh.
Half truths and lies. Half truths and lies. I tell you. Oh man, that is so fascinating. You're like this, like almost like this unspoiled like environment, like from a scientist, perspective. Like we've discovered this island where everything has evolved differently, and you have no knowledge of like all of this other stuff. Oh my gosh, you're perfect. Guys, we found him.
I'm basically, I am living in an uncontrolled environment, and anyone peering through, they just see like a gremlin out in the woods. And I'm like, just looking back at him.
Oh, that's freaking hilarious.
You should be able to catch up in Endwalker, though. You should be like, Endwalker won't last long enough that you can't catch up. That's going to be a big change.
I hope to be able to catch up to the MSQ by Endwalker at least dropping, because there's a lot of things I wanted to do in Shadowbringers, but considering the pace I'm going now, I may not experience anything that Shadowbringers like endgame at all has to offer because of how freaking slow it is. And I've been doing this for, what was it? I think it's 9 months, 10 months, basically a year of me living this way. So and even on the YouTube side of things, I don't watch Final Fantasy XIV content on YouTube because I know how hectic and insane the YouTube recommendation bots are.
Yep.
And some people put in some spoilers in the thumbnails and or the titles, and because of that precaution is a rather huge factor as to my feeling of seclusion from the Final Fantasy XIV community, because I do like consuming content in the game that I enjoy, but because I know how spoilers are and because of the nature of MMO and everyone's at the end goal and I'm sitting there just crawling through the whole race there, I'm kind of not been able to really see what people's been really up to as much as I would like. But I do plan to change that whole process of things after 5.0 is finished, because once I get done with 5.0, then I'll probably do that other method of keeping on playing all the way to the end before focusing hard on the YouTube videos, so that way I can actually enjoy the game with everyone else, because I have missed a lot of opportunities playing the way I have.
It's interesting. How long does it take you right now, would you say, to release one of your videos?
Roughly a week if I'm doing pretty all right with speed. But every now and then it's a little over a week, and sometimes 2 weeks. But the last time that happened, fortunately, was when I decided to write a custom piece of music for the intro, and decided to go a little ham on that. Considering the last time I wrote a piece of music took me before that was like 6 months, and I did that within a week. No, yeah, it was roughly like half a week. I feel kind of proud of that because holy heck, that's a huge jump in speed. But yeah, hopefully they only take like a week at a time, and I do want to get it to 2 weeks. No, not 2 weeks. 2 uploads a week, but I've been trying for that for so long, and I have not been able to do that.
Oh my gosh!
But one day.
Now, Chris, you've had some experience with spoiling things in titles and thumbnails. Do you want to weigh in on some of the lessons that we've learned over the course of our time on YouTube?
Yeah, there was so we were putting out day one guides. I played the game for all of the brilliant content that exists outside of the story, which is actually the majority of our playtime, but is not the majority of what the community focuses on. And so as a result, I enjoyed making content for the community. So we would make day one guides, but day one guides, Brian and I would wake up and wait for the servers to go live. So we're up at some freakish hour. We would play the like content 3 or 4 2 times through while in voice chat with each other. So we could kind of make sure that we're making call outs and stuff so that we're getting as much vision as possible. So I'd be a tank, he'd be a healer. So we get instant queue times, and we have 2 very different but valid viewpoints of the content. And then we would divide it up. And so like I got a trial fight, Fluminous, I think is the name. And then we go into the editing booth, and basically I chop the video up into all of its mechanics in order that we called out. And then I record a voiceover in real time. I play it, and that takes me a couple of playthroughs to get it right without any hiccups. I don't have time for a script. And then I export it, and I generate the thumbnail. I pre-write the descriptions, the tags, and all that in a text document because I don't yet have that up on the YouTube side. So that as soon as it's done exporting, I upload it, copy, paste, upload the thumbnail, push it, and then I go to work. And so that was all happening so that I could be at work on time in the mornings. So it's very, very, very rapid. And that's so that people that want to run it on day one but hate running things blind have a guide out there. And we regularly got thank yous for those. I, at the time, didn't see the difference between naming something after a boss or naming it after the instance name. And there's a reason that the instance names are the way they are. The instance names are incredibly vague. Fluminous means nothing. It's a made-up word. The boss inside of Fluminous does matter. And so we got a wave of hate. Because the other thing I did is I grabbed the boss image to put in the thumbnail because it's a sweet looking boss. And I was like, well, people are going to want to know what they're looking for. So I just threw that up. So everybody's notifications went out, and they got told who the boss was and shown the boss. Now, for
without even clicking on the video,
without even clicking, that was just in people's feeds. Now, at the time, Brian and I were publishing anywhere between 2 and 5 times a day. And so because of the way the YouTube algorithm works, if you can maintain a production schedule of 5 times a day, and it's not just total garbage going out, once somebody watches one of your videos one time, whether or not they subscribe, the algorithm, how it worked then, it's an ever-changing thing, but the algorithm, how it worked then would be like, hey, you like this person's videos? Do you like all of their videos? And so there were people who said, like, I watched one of your videos one time, and then you're like 18 out of my top 20 videos being shown in my home screen. Like, what the heck? Like, you guys are fine. I don't want that much of Brian and Chris, which is one of the many reasons we split into multiple channels, so that people have more control over what aspects of what we publish they get attached to because of the way the algorithm works. So it's let us kind of section it. So they're like, I don't care about Genshin Impact or WoW. Like, I just want 14. Great. We have a way that you can subscribe to just that because we now have underneath our umbrella like 9 or 10 YouTube channels.
Yes.
So it's just divvied it up.
Yeah. All these new people coming over from Twitch, being on the YouTube train. It's like, yeah, you were a pioneer. We were a pioneer. Nobody gives us credit. No respect at all.
And so I did accidentally spoil a boss. I fixed it. We replaced the thumbnail, replaced the title.
Learned a lesson.
Learned a lesson. Pinned an apology at the top of the comments for all the people that so that all the comments that are like, I still saw it this way, I'm aware. And then the best apology is not to like stop and dwell on it. The best apology is to acknowledge it, clarify to make sure you understand how you correct it, and then just don't do it again. Like, that's the best apology in my opinion. So you just fix it. And so from that point forward, we always use quest names or instance names that they are revealing like in the live letter, in the patch notes, because this is pre-screened by Final Fantasy. And so we just trust Yoshi and his team to not make something too spoilery. And if it is, they spoiled it. So we'll just copy them. And then what I was trying to avoid is I didn't want my thumbnail to look like everybody else's, because everybody else is using the art revealed in the patch notes. And so that became the harder part, is how do you handle a thumbnail so that it is on theme, but is not revealing. And so that is where you end up just using cool concept art for a related zone or something like that. And then like, that's the hardest part, is because you do want to show the boss, but you can't show the boss because the boss is all that really matters. So every once in a while I get like a good screenshot of the arena or something, or I get something that like in my mind still keeps it like the arena isn't spoilery until you already know what it is. If you haven't seen it, you don't know what you're looking at. So like, I don't know. That's the harder part.
Yeah, we've seen that feedback coming from time to time. It's like, oh, you showed the boss in the actual footage.
That I can't honor.
No, yeah, but I like, literally to the point where
without the boss in the footage,
you could. But then you'd be like Lucron 2 weeks later when nobody needs it.
Comes out 15 weeks later. But yes, June Bob makes guides without the boss. They're fully animated.
I mean, I'm a bit of a visual learner, and if I'm going to go learn like a boss fight, I do want to see what it is, because if I don't actually like see what's going on, like I understand that point, but it is an interesting thing to think about in terms of like thumbnail conventions. If you're making a guide, because if it's all about the boss, then it makes sense to have the boss in there. But it's weird because in World of Warcraft, I didn't think this was nearly as big of an issue, because I don't think I know there's people believe people get really interested in World of Warcraft story. I was as well. For me personally, I thought it ended at Legion. If you ask me, everything afterwards just kind of felt like a fan fiction. But I was really invested in the story up until that point. And I don't really recall seeing a whole lot of people in the raid guides in terms of comments. I didn't notice hardly any of them really talking about like spoilers being a huge deal, but it is very much a huge deal here, probably because of how strong the established and connected all the story is in this game. I've noticed